this is Gaming with Austin. Today, this is episode 12 of my Minecraft Utopian community world. What we're gonna do now is finish beating that land. Already beaten one row of land for my next round of crops. Like, beaten the path for it. This is the second row. This. The reason for a path is so evenly space out where the crops would be. And so you'd have something to walk on so you wouldn't step on crops. Did you hear that NASA's planning on touching the sun literally? Trying to touch the sun literally? Yeah. Us humans, if we were to man that ship, we would never make it. Because the heat of the sun would kill us all. That ended up killing us all. Which is why we're having the probe do it for us. So we could reach a place that cannot be reached by manned spacecraft. As it'd be really dangerous. It'd be costly. Not only for human lives, but also the ship itself would get destroyed by the sun. Third one, fourth one. Once I finish beating the path, I'd start tilling the soil. Wait, before that, I'd add water to those notches I left behind. Because, you know, all crops need water. Not just wheat, but all the other crops need water just as... Because, you know, all life forms need water to survive. Because without it, you're gonna die. Without water, you're gonna die. Which is not good. Oops. We're gonna beat the soil. Oops. Once we do that, I'd start watering the indentations I left behind in earlier videos. Just like in earlier videos. And instead of planting wheat like I did in the early part of the series, I'm gonna plant some beetroots. I already have it all planned out. With Levato's relapse, if we compare that to Sean Chalmers, Jimbo Jones, and Bart Simpson, Jimbo would be the smack. Shauna would be Demi Lovato. Bart Simpson would be like her fans. Yeah, literally. Because, you know, it's hard for people to stay sober for a very long time after they quit their drugs. Once they become addicted to those drugs. Anything can cause If someone's born addicted to drugs, anything can actually remind them of drugs. Because they're born addicted to drugs. Just like how big tobacco is deciding cigarettes become more addictive over time. Just so they can still make profits, even though more and more of us are quitting with tobacco. With marijuana, I'd rather legalize it instead of take my prescription drugs. Because, you know, unlike many of the prescription drugs, marijuana has never caused a death. There is no reported death from marijuana. In fact, marijuana has a lot more health benefits than any other drug. It can act like a painkiller without the deadly side effects, which is great. Because, you know, if we want to fight the drug epidemic, we have to focus on legalizing marijuana and decriminalizing hard drugs. Because, you know, Portugal did that, and it actually worked. I'm adding more of those so I could do it more efficiently. Even if I had $1 million, I'd still be living in a condo. Doesn't matter how much money I make. You know, unlike our kids who have Lamborghinis, like our kids today that are being entitled to everything, baby boomers were entitled sort of like that, but in a different manner. College was cheaper for them, but millennials, they're screwed. Many of them have bad credit scores, mainly because they're in so much debt. With the Animal Abuser Registry, it shouldn't just be for those running puppy mills, but also those working in factory farms too. Because that is also a form of animal abuse. Because oftentimes, you're going to see violence, blood, suffering, and death. Some of them will never make it to slaughter, because they end up dying from illness. Veterinary care is often denied, because all they care about is profits. That's about it. The best way to fight capitalism is to go vegetarian. It's actually a really good way of fighting capitalism. Not only you'll stop supporting a really cruel industry, but you're doing better for the environment. By leaving meat off your plate. The reason they selectively breed animals to grow so large so fast now is because they're trying to keep up with demand. We don't have to do that with plants. Like, there's no abuse involved in crop farming. Wanna know why? There's very little, there's no abuse involved. It's because plants do not have nerve cells. Animals do. Which is why it's never a good idea to be eating live octopus. It's never a good idea to be doing that. Not only you're abusing that poor octopus, but you're putting your life at risk. Which is why if I went to a Korean restaurant, I'd say no to the sonakji. Not only for the greater good of my life, but for the greater good of the octopus too. Because that is just cruel. No one should be doing that. And with veganism, it's good to go vegan because there would be more food for everybody. Because the fact is, if we all ditched beef, that 15 pounds of grain would go towards feeding more of us. Because they would stop. I know there are some sacrifices you have to make, but it's worth the sacrifice. Celebrities like Alec Baldwin is a vegan. And Doyle Wolfgang von Frankenstein is also vegan. He believes that vegan is metal AF. And how to get your protein if you're a vegetarian or vegan? Nuts are a good source of protein. Yes, I'm talking about peanuts, walnuts, cashews, almonds, pecans, stuff like that. And if everybody went vegan, global warming would slow down by a long shot. If we all went vegan. Back then, before we had cars, the biggest contributor to global warming was factories. Then in the 50s, the biggest contributor was actually our automobiles. But now, the biggest contributor is factory farming. It's wasteful to the environment. It pollutes the air. It pollutes our water. Worst of all, it puts us at risk for a lot of illnesses. Yes, including the well-known Salmonella and E. coli. Plus, it fuels antibiotic-resistant bacteria. Because most of the antibiotics are actually used on farm animals. Which is crazy. Which is why suppliers stopped doing that. Yet the abuse still continues. The abuse and neglect still continues. See this? When you go to a circus that uses animals, they're forced to perform unnatural tricks. Tricks they cannot do by nature. The tigers, naturally, they are scared of fire. By nature, they are scared of fire. And if we ditch the circuses that used animals, they would stop capturing animals from the wild and exploiting them. Which probably explains why Barnum and Bailey Circus closed. What they do to the clowns, they released them into the woods. Yes, they did. That clown's being released into the woods there was a clown in the woods from it, and also those clown sightings too. The reason for those clown sightings was to promote that movie. The movie It. It's actually the name of the movie. It's a remake of the original It film. Imagine if there were those clown sightings back in the early 90s to promote the original release of It. It might be possible. But you know, I wasn't born in the 90s. I was born at the start of the millennium. With those clown sightings, someone decided to make a joke about what happened to what they wanted to do to the... By the way, I finished patting the soil for the path. Now, let's water the soil, then beat that soil. Let's start beating that soil. Let's get this on. Then Metalocalypse, it was... Someone joked about the clowns. Yes, I was joking around about the clowns being released into the woods. They really would never do that. Well, I hope they retired the elephants and the big cats to sanctuaries. I hope they did. Let's hope they did. Once Barnum and Bailey Circus went out of business. The reason for the decline in attendance, a lot of it has to do with the protests from animal rights activists, from PETA, and the Humane Society of the United States. And animal rights groups, and animal rights activists like Gary Yourofsky. With the elephants being used in the circus, they're torn from their mothers when they are little. That's not good. They're beaten if they don't perform the tricks they're supposed to. This is just horrible. Good thing if I built a circus, or maybe, and eventually, as the community gets large enough, I'd start building some smaller, some more high-rise building. I'd start turning those houses into townhouses. I'm starting off with low-density housing right now. And as soon as I finish watering that gap, I'd start beating that soil like I did, and then that surrounds the water and the pathway. Then I'd start planting beetroots. Once I finish planting those, all the... Come on. I was wondering if I was just checking if my mom was home. Because of pizza. By the way, I love pizza, but you know, let's hope Little Caesars and Pizza Hut start, along with Papa John's and Domino's, start going towards vegan options. Let's hope they do that. For the greater good of the animals. Because even dairy cows are suffering too. Female cows, just like all mammals, they can only produce milk after birth. So they're forcibly impregnated over and over again. This is sad. calves are torn away from them. And ultimately, their life is taken away from them. When they've been used up. This is just horrible. Your best bet is to go vegan. Hens, what's wrong with taking their eggs once they have their periods? There's nothing wrong with that, but the biggest problem is they're crammed into those battery cages. And even in so-called free range, they do it to comfort those who are buying eggs. The only true free-range eggs are the ones that roam around out on the fields. Those are the truly free-range eggs. Those are the eggs that are truly free-range. That was back in the day, when there wasn't as much of a demand for meat as there is now. In fact, my grandparents, yes, on my maternal side of the family at least, used to raise chickens, hens, and turkeys. That was before the factory farming. That was before consuming meat became a controversial topic, because of a cruel practice known as factory farming. No animal abuser should be working on a farm, because of what they're doing to those innocent animals who deserve to be left alone. The rodeo, when it goes to animals being used for entertainment, don't go to an event of entertainment that involves the use of live animals. Because with the rodeo, they want you to believe that bulls are vicious. They're not. But in the rodeo, they wear a bucking strap. Yes, I said that. Imagine if it's really tight around their waist, which causes them to buck around really violently, which is not good. Which ain't good. And the bull riders are wearing spurs, as you see in Gary Yourofsky's video. It's not fun for the bull. I definitely agree with PETA that animals are not to be used for entertainment. But the problem with PETA is they tend to be pretty controversial when it goes to what they do with animals they rescue. They tend to be pretty controversial about that. Yes, I'm talking about our family pets like dogs, cats, and occasionally pigs. Because some of us do have pigs as pets. Some of you viewers might have a pig as a pet. That's great. It's your opinion. The message to the meat industry: it's time for the abuse to stop. If we want to stop animal abuse completely, it's best to give up your hunting rifles to stop the abuse of wild animals that are used for hunting. I definitely agree with the Humane Society on the abuse on factory farms, that it must stop. We must impose humane slaughter methods, too. No meat should be labeled as kosher at all. Unless they're raised on free range, on what are actually on an actual free range farm instead of a so-called free range farm. Unless they're raised on an actual free range farm, like with animals being slaughtered in a quick and painless manner. Because, you know, if you slice... what we need is more humane slaughter methods, or maybe lab-grown meat instead, to avoid the slaughtering of animals altogether. Because, you know, that'd be even better. Lab-grown meat would be a whole lot better. It'd still be chicken, but with no cruelty whatsoever. I agree with Humane Society and PETA that you shouldn't go to a puppy mill to get your dogs. If you're gonna breed animals to supply to pet stores, don't do it for profit. Just do it to give it to them. Just give it to them instead. If you want to work for the meat industry, basically you have to sell your soul. You can't care about animals at all, to be honest. Which is why I'd rather not work for the meat industry to begin with. Because I'll end up seeing a lot of violence. Plus, those who work on factory farms might not live as long. Because they're also at a higher risk of getting sick. No matter if the meat is cooked or not, there is still a chance of salmonella and E. coli, even if it's cooked thoroughly. The best way to avoid it completely is to go vegetarian. You're less likely to get foodborne illness if you go vegetarian. We need to stop abusing antibiotics. Instead, we need to stop misusing them on our animals, because that's what's causing the rise in that's one of the causes of the rise in antibiotic-resistant bacteria. Same with global warming. Because that temperature increase causes bacteria to replicate more quickly. And also, not only that, it also causes bacteria to mutate more quickly too. So if we want to do our part to fight global warming, think about what car you're gonna buy. Small cars tend to be more efficient and the most affordable. That is me yawning. Small cars tend to be the most efficient. Don't just go vegan. Because, you know, the meat industry is a really big contributor to global warming today. It's best to go for a car that emits very little, less CO2. It's best to go for a car that emits the least amount of CO2. That is me yawning. That emits the least amount of CO2 per kilometer it travels. The lower the CO2, the better. Our cars today are good thing our cars emit less CO2 today than it did 50 years ago. Which is good. Because, you know, just make sure everything is good. If you want to fight global warming, your best bet, go for a small car. Not only that, it's also best to, if you want to buy a car and fight global warming, it's best to go for a small car. Not only that, you should combine that with going vegan too. And to also ditch the AC. And to also ditch the AC as well. And finish watering area. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to leave a like if you liked this video. Dislike if you disliked it. Subs if you loved it. Bell icon to be notified. Share with your friends and followers. To help my channel grow, because that would mean a lot to my channel. Thank you for watching, and peace out.